Yeah. This is Negro Please. I'm Dallas Scott, Hollywood Huff, Basic Trina, and producer Quan. We're a little late today. We had to try and broker a love deal between Quan and Basic Trina.
Yo, he's anticipating my needs. What more do you want?
But he won't shave his beard.
He will not. Which is a dead ass problem for me.
Because Trina has issues with beards.
It's like an phobia. Don't touch me with it.
Even more than that, I just don't understand how you don't know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
they're coming
11,
at me
12.
with this in the morning.
You don't know what that is?
I can count to 12 too.
It has nothing to do with counting to 12.
A, B, C.
No,
that's
it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You don't know that.
You only get to 12?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it a commercial? Like 8, 6,
No.
7, 5? Oh, wait, that's not a commercial either. That's a song. What's the.
It's Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was more into Barney. What? Yo, I didn't need some big bird talking to me, some garbage can.
So you had a big dinosaur.
You had a big
talking to
purple
you?
dinosaur talking
he
to you,
sang
right?
to me more. Elmo laughed.
If you'd have watched, then you would have heard them sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Sounds like I wasn't missing out on much.
Are you kidding me?
You missed out on a lot.
You missed,
How did you even learn how to count to 12?
Because Barney didn't count. All he did was, I love you.
Yeah,
you
now
love
do you
me.
know why I am the way I am?
Oh.
I'm all love and spread sunshine and happiness. I don't need to count. I got calculators.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need to go. I don't even know how to tell you to Google that. Just go to
YouTube.
Yeah, and be like Sesame Street 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10,
I was just at
11,
Sesame
12.
Street in Florida. They did some really good,
And Barney had a beard.
Barney had a beard.
He did not. Did not. Don't go spoiling my dreams like that, Quan.
If you guys ever see me on a Thursday and I'm shaved,
You know shit's
you know what
going
happened
down.
on Wednesday.
I was like, yeah. Trina, where you at? Yoy.
Wow. This show's going to have some sexual content, though, today.
Whoop, whoop.
It's also going to have some police content here today. I will be
Whoop, whoop.
bashing and trolling police today.
Ooh.
Let's start with right here in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
The Las Vegas Metro Police Department on the 13th, which was a few days last Thursday, apparently 2 officers walked into a bar restaurant here in Vegas. I'm not going to give the name of it because I think the fact that they gave the name of it is really why this whole story irritates me. As the officers entered and approached the bar, the bartender shook his head, said no, motions his fingers across his neck to say stop. The officers asked if they could take a seat in order. He said something to eat. The bartender responded with, "We don't serve you guys here anymore." The officers thought he was joking, which the bartender emphasized that he was serious. The officers left the restaurant without incident. Here's my issue with this, right? I don't know why this had to be made public. This was actually made public on Las Vegas Metro Police Officer Wives' Facebook page. And then
If I was a wife, I'd be upset too.
Be upset. This doesn't need to be public knowledge.
I mean, neither does all the sports stuff that comes out, but clearly some woman is going to be upset about this.
This is bullying in this restaurant.
Yeah.
What?
This is 100%. They bullied this restaurant. You put this restaurant out there because you think because you're a police officer that you're above everything else, and since
That's
don't
not
want
true.
to,
That's discriminating just against them, like any other type of discrimination, which neither are acceptable.
there's no discrimination in personal business. They have the right to. At most restaurants, when you walk in, they have a sign that says we have the right to refuse service to anybody. And the problem for me with this is, and this is according to them, we don't serve you guys here anymore, which leads me to believe that there's a lot more to the story and that something happened before. To make this public so you can demand an apology from this restaurant.
Did they demand an apology?
Yes. This is bullying. For the entire police
department. It's not bullying.
This is 100% bullying.
Absolutely incorrect. They're literally just telling their story and requesting an apology.
Why are you requesting an apology? Why do you deserve an apology?
If they want to ask for an apology, there's nothing wrong with asking for an apology. If they get it is one thing. If they don't is another. If you take action after either of those two don't happen, that's fine. But there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I went to this establishment. I was not treated the way that I think that it should be treated to everyone. Then you
But
have a right to voice your way.
they're not saying that I'm being treated different than everyone. They're saying as police officers, we were wrong because they should have served us because we are police officers. You should have did this because we are police officers. And because we are police officers, you not serving us is wrong, which is taking a bully tactic of saying that you have to treat us better than other people.
He didn't ask to be treated better. He asked to be treated the same. He came into an establishment asking for the same thing that everybody else wanted there. And because of his profession was not served and asked to leave. And it's not his profession. I mean, clearly there's another social standard on here that's like there's a different point that's being made, obviously. However, it's like to share your story that you went into an establishment and were treated below service level of everyone else, regardless of whether it's your profession, the way you look, the way you act, your sexuality, any of the above, there's unacceptable. And you should be able to tell your story about that.
No, not when you're demanding
They asked.
an apology.
They didn't demand.
No, they are demanding. There's way more to the story than just this is just the beginning. Then the entire police department came by and we're so disappointed in the way they treated us and our officers. Our officers deserve to be treated better than this.
Wouldn't the same type of crew gather for anybody else who was treated
No.
the same way? And
Nobody else would have made it a public thing saying, hey, look at us, give us a...
What are you talking about? If a woman walked in and they said that they wouldn't serve that woman, she's going to gather all her friends and say, excuse me, you don't think that I should be able to be treated here the same way as everybody else?
That is bullying. You're saying that you're pushing your belief onto somebody else.
You're making your statement that I'm not being treated at a high enough standard. And that standard
Who
is the
says that
same
you?
to
Who
everyone
says
else.
that? No. Who says that you deserve the high standard of treatment?
You deserve the same treatment.
And
He's not
again,
asking to be put at a VIP table and bring out all the bottles and give me all the
Then
service.
don't bring
call your
attention
best
to it.
girls. No, they still were treated unfairly.
how are they treated unfairly?
They came to an establishment looking for the same thing everyone else was and was asked to leave
We
or not
don't
be
serve
taken.
you guys here anymore.
If you say that
Specifically
statement to
the-
anybody else, they're going to feel the exact same way.
No.
Any other type of group. Quan's shaking his head. Give me that.
I agree.
Thank you.
If black people walked in and I said, we don't serve you guys anymore,
Boom.
there's going to be an outrage. If some gay guys walk in and say, we don't serve you guys anymore,
Boom.
there's going to be an outrage. Cops frequent bars because they're in that area, and that's why there's a cop discount
Right.
in all bars.
That's the other thing too, right? Like this entitlement of having a discount. And I understand why people do the discount because you want them there. It dissuades when criminals walk by and they
Or
see the
maybe
police
just
vehicle.
out of appreciation. That could definitely be
But I think-
thing.
I
And
think
the
Appreciate
bar
it for
actually
what?
apologized.
For
Fired the
keeping you
bartender.
safe.
They
that
didn't
did
fire
that.
the bartender. They suspended the
Oh,
bartender. But again, you put the establishment in a position where they have no choice but to take an action, whether they want to take that action or not.
They made the action by making you leave. That was the action. That was your action. You made an action which caused a reaction of people who disagree with how you feel and how someone was treated, and other people are getting involved to agree or disagree with those sides. Those are
think
the
the-
actions that are happening.
I think like here's the thing, because the police have a certain amount of power, for them to go public with something and demand something is kind of a flex of that power, instead of them saying, you know what, we walked in, this particular person said he's not going to serve us. We need to talk to the next person up. We need to talk to a manager. We need to talk to the GM. We need to talk to somebody above this guy. Like, to me, that's the right thing to do, not basically put out a whole news article about it.
I
It
can
was-
You know what I
it
mean?
was
So
graveyard, right?
I think
I
is the
can
Did
difference.
definitely
graveyard?
agree
It is.
with
I
that.
think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there-
it was
there's no
graveyard.
one else there
Okay.
besides the bartender.
Well, I mean,
graveyard.
maybe not at
So
that
don't
time,
handle it
but
then.
come
You
back.
can come back in
Yeah,
the morning.
come back in the
If
morning.
a
like,
cop
hey,
does
you know,
something wrong, we blasted all over
Blasted
social
on
media
social
right away,
Oh,
right?
we're about
then
to
if a
blast a
cop
police
does
officer
it,
for doing something wrong too.
Oh,
But then if a
you've
cop
already
does it-
started. You've already started blasting this police officer for going into an establishment and asking for the same service that everybody else has.
You're
That's
not
what you're
entitled.
blasting on.
There's this entitlement that you're not entitled to anything. You're not
I
entitled
think
to the
you
service.
should feel entitled to be treated the same as everyone else. I feel like that is a genuine feeling that across the board humans should be feeling.
Then they should pay full price and not take the 50% discount.
That's fair, but that's an offer that you are now accepting. You're not demanding the 50% off. You went in, and that's something that has been given to you by the establishment out of whether you want it to be protection for your facility, good looks, or maybe they just appreciate the police presence in here. I understand that not all police officers are amazing, but not all police officers are shit either. And like, I feel like there are officers out there who put their lives on the line every day to protect the people in their society. Are there equal amounts of bad ones? Maybe, probably. Statistics are probably out there. But that doesn't change the fact that, like, these people are out there risking more things so that you don't have to. And some people want to appreciate that.
And some people don't care. It's the job. When you sign up to be a police officer, it's the job.
And your job as a bartender is to serve someone who walks into your bar. Not choose who you serve when they walk in.
Again, there's history between these guys and this bar. If there's history that states that this guy is not dealing with them because of their previous actions, you don't get to then go and continue to bully and put out a statement saying, oh, no matter what we do, we should be treated above everybody else.
Didn't ask to
Real
be
quick,
treated
that's a part you didn't bring up though. Like what happened before for them to say that.
That's the point. It's like,
well, that's a different story.
But the police, because
that you're putting up here.
No, it's the same story because the police didn't put up the other side of the story, right? They only put up your one side of the story. That's where the bullying comes in. When you don't give the give and take, and you don't allow, by doing this, you're not allowed, you put the owner of the business in a position because people want to support the police officers.
Do they?
A lot of people do.
A lot of white people do.
That's where the whole trying to bring police officers into your establishment. Why else do you give such a large group of people a 75%, 50%, 25% discount for no other reason than their job? People want, most establishments want undercover cops or plainclothes police officers, in their establishment for a handful of reasons. Number one, if you take care of these police, something bad happens and you have to call the police, they're going to show up because you take care of them, right?
Sure.
But the police are already, they're supposed to show up anyway.
I mean, of course.
Bartenders are supposed to serve drinks.
I'm saying, but this is the
police officers want to show up a little bit slower if that's the way that's going to happen. So a bartender is going to serve you a little bit slower or not serve you at all. Like,
so you think the police have a right to show up slowly? And
I don't think that the bartender has the right to say no to that person.
He has a right to say anybody who owns a business has a right to say no to anybody they want to.
That might be the line, but we're not talking about the legality of it here. We're talking about the social standard and what's accepted and what's fair and what's bullying.
Why is it not socially acceptable to say, I don't want you in my business? Again, because you don't know what happened to make that specific bartender say, I don't want you here.
Because of you guys. He grouped those two people into another group of people.
No, you're assuming he grouped them into another group of people. My thought when I hear that is he's talking about those guys.
No, because he
didn't say
you aren't. You aren't. If he was talking about those two people, he would have said you aren't.
No, he said you guys. And
we get into something that we'll probably never decipher because people talk differently. But I mean, he could, let's assume if he's only talking about these two guys and saying you two guys aren't welcome here. I know myself as a dealer, have dealt to people. And I've told my supervisors where I work that, look, y'all may not kick this guy out. Y'all may allow him to come into this establishment, but I'm not dealing to him because of the way he treated me. Right. So I can see a bartender, especially a bartender, when you serving people drinks and you get to see people act their lowliest sometimes. I could see him seeing these two guys come in who maybe acted a fool 2 nights before. Like, who knows what they did or why he said this to them. But I could see a bartender seeing these two guys and saying, and right when they come in, as soon as he see their faces, like, nope, y'all acted a fool last night, just go.
These guys are regulars at this place. This is someplace these two guys go to on a regular basis. He said, we are not serving you guys.
Right.
So as in those guys. Those guys that came in. Yes.
Exactly. So why is it...
He didn't say we're not serving all police officers.
Why is it so hard for the establishment to say, yo, they came in looking like a fool 2 nights ago. This is how we feel. I'm not serving you because of your connection to other people that I don't respect.
And this is what Dallas is saying, is because once these two officers, when they got turned away, they went back to their union, their chief, their police, their whoever, and they made this big stink about it. So now the next time the manager or the GM at the bar heard about it, was reading all the Facebook posts, and now he's got to do damage control because nobody came to him and said, oh, it was just these two guys or whatever. Now it's too late to just work out a deal with these two guys. Now he has to make a public display of everything. So all the people like me, you, and everybody else who might go to that bar can realize, like, oh, okay, well, the owner, it was just that one guy. This isn't how they are. This is just, there was a disagreement with just this one guy, so he's been suspended. Right. Okay, the bar doesn't hate cops, just that bartender did.
I feel like that story would come out if that's the actual story that's portraying. Like, there's still nothing wrong with
But here, let me stop you right there, because there are plenty of stories when police do things to people, and we only ever hear the police side of the story.
That's true.
And I'm not, and in this situation, there's still so much that I just don't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, in all fairness, the police could be 100% in the right in this situation. I don't know, but based on their track record, the police are better at covering up stuff than anybody.
Yeah,
So
I
I
get
mean,
that.
you know what
And
I mean, and stand in front of the
Right.
narrative, and this is why people always want to get a good. The reason why reporters always report the police side of the story is because when a crime happens and that reporter needs a story, they have to go to the police.
Right.
So they have to keep the police happy. The police aren't going to give them any information if all they ever do is go, these cops are dirty. This cop, even if they're telling the truth.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's really hard for a bad story to get out about the police, or the bad side of the story where the police acted inappropriately, because nobody wants to report that side of the story.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Well,
you
me
could
and
just
you with the cell phone to come out with
Google
this.
like bad cop, and I can give you probably 100,000.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk
but
about
where do
bad
most of
cops.
those
We got a
stories come
caller.
from, though?
Well, we got a caller.
Yeah.
Oh, who's our caller?
Who's calling us?
Caller, what's your name?
It's Dominic.
Hi, Dominic.
Hi, Dominic.
Oh, Dominic is going to be
How
very
you doing?
partial here because his dad's a retired cop. So you got to
Ooh.
like have full disclosure on this.
My dad is too. Let's
Yeah.
go.
My brother
Really?
is a cop. Yeah.
My dad's retired federal.
Yeah.
Well, Dallas, we've known each other, God, since '06, right?
Yeah. Probably 13,
14
15
years?
Yeah, something like that.
And you know me, I'm totally pro cop, but the way I read the story was he made the point of not serving you two cops, and that's the way it was written. It wasn't written that it was, okay, we're just not going to serve you two. It was written as we're not going to serve any cops.
Right.
But
You
it
know,
wasn't
that's
written
where
like
the
that.
reporter made the mistake.
Like, well, every article that I read, like 6 articles on this, he didn't say we're not serving police officers. He said we're not serving you guys, specifically talking to 2 different people.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as we're talking
Mhm.
police, we're going to keep going. We're going to get to a good police story eventually too today. All right.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
No, we are going to get to a
Right.
good police story. Like, you can't do the bad without the good. I've always said that.
Fair enough.
Eastern Illinois University swim team has 1 black guy in the team. His name is Jalen Butler. I know people think that black people don't swim, but there are a few of us who do. And this is, to me, this is absolutely. So he's on the swim team from Eastern Illinois. They're going to a swim meet in South Dakota. They're on their way back to Eastern Illinois. They stop in East Moline, Illinois, part of the Quad Cities. There's apparently some type of sign, and the coach of the team says, "Hey, will you go take a picture of that sign over there for our social media page?" We don't know what the sign says. We just know that he was asked to go take a picture of a sign. So it probably said something funny or whatever.
Not a road sign, not
Yeah,
a
sometimes-
65
just-
miles an hour
No,
sign.
it's just
Yeah,
some type
who
of
knows?
sign, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, go take a picture of that." It might have just said East Moline. I don't know. It just
Okay.
They asked him to go take a sign. So he walks away from the bus, overtakes the picture. As he's walking back, he gets swarmed by police. He gets tackled to the ground. According to people who were there, police hold his gun to his head and says, essentially, "If you move, I will fucking blow your brains out."
Essentially, or those are the words that
No,
you
those are
are-
the words.
Okay.
That's the
Just
quote from
checking.
the witnesses
Just
on the
checking.
thing. Yeah, yeah.
Look,
yeah.
you're a
That's-
little different.
No,
But
that's
go
the
ahead.
quote.
Okay, quote.
So the coach and the other players run over and are like, whoa, what are you doing? He's with us. They arrest the guy. They throw him in the back of the car. They detain him. You know why they detained him? Because he thought he was holding the bus hostage.
Yeah.
There was no call or like phone call for anything
No.
else. He was just driving down the road and saw this interaction happen. I'm just clarifying.
What do you mean?
Like, so the
Talking about
police
the police?
officer just happened to be there.
Police officers.
Yeah, it
There's
was-
this, they
That's
swarmed.
what I'm asking. They just happened to be there, or somebody called and was
No,
like, "Yeah."
apparently they
yeah.
just, there's no, any of the stories I've read, there's nothing that said, "Hey, police were called."
So
like
how
that.
did they end up there? Is all I
That's
want
the $1 million question. Right
Okay.
now,
Yeah.
All right.
to know. Okay.
There's one black kid on this bus.
Yeah.
They think he's holding the bus hostage. He has no weapons on him. They have him on the ground. They have a gun to the back of his head, telling him if he's going to move, they're going to blow his fucking brains out.
Yeah.
The coach of the team's like, "Whoa, what are you doing? That's my guy.
Right.
He's
Right.
with us." Like, well, he's holding the, no, he's not holding the bus hostage. He's with us.
Yeah.
At that point, there's no, "Hey, whoa,
Yeah,
we made a
yeah.
mistake here, guys. We're sorry." No, we're
They-
still going to arrest and detain this kid because we don't apparently believe everybody else.
Yeah.
Even the bus driver who was driving the bus, a guy by the name of Todd Singerland, was like, he was so horrified watching this that he wanted to go
Like
and
running.
body slam the cop that was holding the gun to the kid's head because he just didn't understand like what's going on here. He's like, when he heard that, like he physically felt for the kid's life when he heard a cop say that to this kid. This is a 19-year-old black kid minding his own business.
Yeah.
There's no law against taking pictures of road signs or whatever the sign was that he was taking a picture of. And you have an entire team. I don't know how many kids are on a swim team.
Yeah.
I don't know how many coaches there are, but I'm guessing there's probably 2 or 3 coaches. Probably.
How many police officers swarmed him?
It doesn't give a number. It just says that he was swarmed by
I'm
police
just curious
officers.
how
They slammed him to the ground.
I mean, even if it was one, I mean, it's too many. They came.
that's fair.
Yeah, they,
I'm just trying to think about like convincing 2 to 3 to 4 other people of this danger at
listen,
this current
the
point.
police don't need convincing. It's back me up.
That's fair.
That's
Yep, that makes
that's what
sense.
happens when the police
makes
show
total
up
sense.
and one guy takes the lead. He looks at his partner and says, "Back
You got
me up,"
Yeah, okay.
and they all follow his lead until there's a reason not to.
that makes
It
sense.
says
You
several
see?
police cars
Yeah.
suddenly raced up on the 19-year-old and was soon faced. They get out of the car with guns
Yeah.
blazing. Like,
I feel like we're missing a piece of the story.
Well, after the story and after, of course, the kid decides to sue them, they said, "Oh, it was a case of mistaken identity. They were looking for someone
So
who
that's what I
did
was
something
gonna
else,
say.
right?"
Like you
But-
could be on a high chase of somebody who just committed 3 murders in the backyard, and they're running through the gates, and all
Okay.
of a sudden they
and
see
I'm gonna tell
someone
you
who
why
matches
I call
the
BS
profile.
on their story, right?
Yeah,
Because they originally said they thought he was trying to hold the bus hostage.
exactly.
That's why.
So why
So
are you-
they
so-
changed their story, right?
So first he was
Oh,
holding
okay.
first he was holding the bus hostage, and then it was, "Oh, we thought he was somebody else."
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the story will always change to fit their narrative, and
Right.
that's why, like, I remember watching this, like, you know, when the whole Mike Brown thing happened, right? And I'm following this because I'm from that area, and you know, people are telling me what's happening, and I'm watching the news and stuff. And when it first came out, it was like, "Oh yeah, we were looking for the guy who robbed this place," you know. And then it was like, "Oh no, the cop was just driving down the street. This had nothing to do with what happened at the gas station. It was, he just asked them to get out the street, and they start cursing at him, and then they attacked him. And then it was like, oh no, the cops smell weed. Like it was 4 different stories before they finally came out with a statement
Right.
that made the most sense of all their stories combined. You see?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and sometimes the stories are kind of close. So you could say, okay, I could see how one reporter got it wrong, but no, there was no. This is not something where the stories were close. This is. We thought he was holding y'all hostage. That's why we did this.
Right.
And then later it's, oh no, we were chasing somebody else.
Right.
How are those two things
Even
even
if you
remotely
are
related?
chasing somebody else, right? You got a whole team. I don't know how many get. I'm guessing 15 swimmers, maybe minimum. I don't know.
Right.
I don't.
It's got to be.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine less than 10 kids
Right.
on a school bus.
Right.
Yeah,
For sure.
so-
You're looking at 15. For
And
sure.
and I'm assuming it's a college, so it's probably a little nicer bus,
Right.
not
Yeah.
like a regular school
Yeah,
bus.
yeah.
You know, like
Right.
a little like coach Greyhound type thing.
Right.
Do you think
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
You
all-
have like say 15 swimmers,
Yeah.
3 or 4 coaches, and a bus driver saying, "Whoa,
Right.
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
he's with us. That's our
Right.
guy."
Do you think legally they could just let him go at that point, though, or do you think like once you make that move, is that something that as a police officer you can go back from? I'm asking like genuinely.
Of course they can.
Of course
Why wouldn't they be
Like
able
you
to?
wouldn't have to follow through paperwork of why like you
They,
were
of
in
course,
this
they always have to.
situation.
Police officers at the end of the day are supposed to fill out a report, basically, of everything they've done throughout the day.
Right.
So that would be in that report, but there would be no reason for them
To keep him.
to continually at that point when he's on the ground, and then the teachers and the bus driver comes out and says, "Hey, you got the wrong guy."
Right.
There's nothing wrong with them just getting off of his back and letting him walk
Yeah,
away,
right.
as opposed to continually handcuffing him and putting
Put him
him
in the
back
car.
of the car.
You're
Like,
right.
there's
Going
no
through an arrest
For sure.
reason
procedure.
for
right?
that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What do
I
you mean?
feel
No,
that.
he's not holding us hostage. He's with us.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Clearly, there's been a miscommunication
Here, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
I
don't.
feel
But
that.
we don't care about that. So we're gonna just continue to go on with this, and that's the problem. It's like once there's a video of a black guy in Denver who's like he lives in some type of apartment, but part of his deal with his apartment is that he has to clean up the outside area.
hmm
Like he's it's part of his rent deal or something like
Yeah.
that. Excuse me. So he's outside cleaning up his the outside area. All he's doing is picking up trash off the ground.
Yeah.
And an officer comes up to him and asking for his ID. First of all, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He wasn't like, so he doesn't have to show ID. Like, there's this misconception that you have to obey with police officers at all times. I'm minding my own business. Do you have a reason to stop me, sir? No, then leave me alone. I'm going to keep on minding my business.
Right.
The guy is just picking up the trash. This becomes a deal because the cop's like, where do you live? He's like, I live here. Show me your ID. Why? What am I doing wrong here? I'm picking up trash.
Right.
You're going to show me your ID. The cop pulls a gun on him. The cop calls other police officers. They pull a gun on him. All this guy is doing is walking around picking up trash.
Yeah.
They're like, show us that you live here. He's like, why do I have to show you? I'm on private property. I didn't ask you to come here. Yeah. Nobody else asked you to come here. You technically have no right to be here. Mm-hmm. I do. Right. Why? How am I in the wrong here? The video is of cops holding guns on this guy. All he's doing is walking around, continually just picking up trash.
And then at one point in the video, they ask him, or he asked them, he's like, "Why do you guys have guns out?"
Right.
And one of the cops says, "Because you have a weapon." And he's got one of them little sticks that you squeeze to pick up, trash. Yeah, he's holding that, and he's like, "Really, this is a dangerous weapon." And the cop is like, "I don't know what you're going to do with that." And he's like, "I'm picking up trash with it." Like, what do you?
What's happening?
Like, you could be a complete moron, just a straight idiot. You could be the dumbest person walking, and you can watch this video and see that there is something wrong in the behavior and the culture of police. Like, we keep talking about training. It's not of course they need more training, but it's culture. Yeah. This is allowed because when the other cops come up, if I'm just say I become a cop today and I walk onto this scene and I see a cop pointing a gun at a guy who's picking up trash, my first thought is I better get my gun out too. I mean, because that's what these cops do.
Right.
Why aren't these other cops coming on the scene? Why aren't they asking him, "Hey bro, what's the deal? Why do you have your gun out? What exactly is happening?"
I have to ask here, though, in that type of situation, like you said, aren't they trained to follow who's next, like who's in command? So at that point, once you made that point to me, I realized how easy it is for things to go wrong.
It is, but that's also part of the problem because there are certain situations where I would say, now I'm not going to roll up on the scene and just not be ready to pull my gun out.
You're like, yo, guys, what are we doing?
Right. If I see my partner with his gun out, I'm thinking, okay, there's a threat.
Right.
But once I'm there, and the same thing with this kid on this bus, when these police roll up, why does no one assess the situation?
Right.
Why does no one stop and actually look around and see what's happening?
Right.
Does anybody look like they're afraid? Does anybody look like they're in danger?
The people who look like they're afraid are actually afraid for the kid. Right. They're not afraid for themselves. They're afraid that something bad's going to happen to this kid.
And they're afraid after the police have pulled their guns.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So you take 10, 15, 20 totally calm, totally relaxed people. And then the hyper aggravated, super aggressive cops show up and pull their guns out before they assess anything. And now the calm people are afraid.
Right.
And now the police are afraid of the afraid people.
Right.
And the only people who were ever in danger were the people who were minding their own business. The police at no point were ever in danger.
Right.
But their narrative is we have to protect ourselves from
the guy picking up.
There's
even a point in the video where one of the other people in the apartment complex comes downstairs and like leaving, and he's like, "What the hell's going on here?" And one of the cops like, "Do you know this guy?" And they're like, "Yeah, he lives upstairs." At that point, like, there's no, the guy still hasn't done anything wrong, and now you have confirmation that he lives there.
Right.
Eventually, what happens is the supervisor, the sergeant, or whoever shows up.
Yeah.
And because they stop the other guy who's leaving because they want to question him about whatever, and he's like, "Well, what did he do?" And he's like, he was picking up trash. And they're like, "Well, why?" And they're like, "Because he lives here."
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "Okay, so why are we here then?"
Right.
Eventually, the sergeant or the lieutenant comes over and is like,
somebody starts asking the question.
Right. And why is this going on?
Right.
And there's like, "Well, I asked him for his ID and he wouldn't give me ID because he doesn't have any ID on him." Again,
why are we here?
Why are we here? Kind of thing. And then they're like, "Well, go back to work."
So do you think that the repercussions for incidents like this are not high enough that is the reason that we're in this situation?
Yes.
Or do you think it's more the cultural aspect, like Steve was saying, where it's, I have power, I am man, you will obey kind of thing?
That's the thing, is it's a little bit of both. And because the police have such powerful unions, sometimes, and a lot of people don't understand this, the actual police department and the police unions are not always the same, right? So they're two separate incidences sometimes, right?
Okay.
Or the two entities. And so sometimes the police officer does something bad, right? The union is 100% going to back him up even if he kills somebody.
Right,
we see that
that's
all the
their
time, right? That's what they're going to do. The police department, the reason why they have these long investigations and, he's suspended with pay and all of that, is because if they fire him right away, even though they know he did wrong, the union is going to come after them. So there has to be, we got to suspend him while there's an investigation.
Right.
And then they have to make this airtight investigation, right? And the union, both of these people, in essence, don't really want this cop to be fired.
Right.
In most cases,
Because
right?
that's their job. It's
Right.
Like being
You know what I mean? So sometimes they're not even, the police department isn't even working hard. Sometimes they're trying to cover things up.
Right.
Sometimes there's like 8 officers involved and they only got 20. So they got to fire half the force. If this
Right.
happens, remember that kid walking down the street in Chicago and the cop shoots him 14 times. And then they said he had a knife in his pocket or he was slashing tires or something.
Why do you have to shoot
The whole
14
thing,
bullets?
the kid had his hands, his hands never came out of his pocket. He was walking. He was shot 14 times. Hands never come out of his pocket.
No weapon.
No weapon, right? And then the whole police, they're covering up for everything. The only way anybody found out about it was some reporter who knew somebody in the station, got a hold of a dash cam video, which showed the whole shooting.
Wow.
It wasn't just the one cop shooting. It was like 6 or 7 other cops standing there. So you have the one cop who shot him. You have the 7 or 8 cops or whatever number it was that were standing there and saw it. And then you have everybody in that office who saw that video and saw that crime happen. All of those people, if this was me and civilians and not police, and me and a bunch of my coworkers did this, we all would be charged with murder. All
Right.
15 of us, right? Because this is the Chicago Police Department, only one cop is charged with murder, and I think 2 or 3 other people, like 3 years later, ended up being kicked off the force for something stupid. They might have got charged with something, I can't remember. But this is what they do. And this is part of the culture. They're all going to cover for each other. So what did every cop there, their police report basically said the same thing. The kid charged at them, and he had a knife. And so the one cop shot him in self-defense. All of their reports said that. All of them worked together to tell that lie.
Right.
Right?
Looks the same.
But then we see the video, and clearly nothing happened. Now, here's the thing. If you're the police chief or you're the sergeant or whoever's reading their reports, you see the video. You read the reports. What was in the video was not what was in the reports. No disciplinary action.
Interesting.
So that's a huge part of bad culture.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But also, there has to be a system of checks and balances where there's somebody who's neutral in the situation, who
Right.
doesn't benefit from the police or who doesn't benefit from basically delivering justice. You know what I'm saying? They have to be able to tell the truth on
Find
what
the
happened.
Truth, tell the truth.
You see what
and
I'm saying? So,
acknowledge it. Yeah.
and so it's like this. I'm the one who's basically proofreading my own work. I know what everybody's looking for. So when I write my report, I know how to write it. I'm giving it to somebody who has my back. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say there's so much bad culture in police. And a lot of it gets written off as, black cops, because most of what we see in video is black cops killing white people. But it happens with everybody.
For sure.
Everybody gets screwed when the police stick together like this.
And I think that this is just going to be a very, very difficult subject for a long time because, if we talk about the country in itself run by money, finances, all the X, Y, and Z, police bring in and use a lot of money. So it's like you can't waste your money on people who are going to be suspended, waste all that training on people
Right.
who they need in the streets,
Right.
in the cities, which, I might not know this for sure, but I believe that we already don't have enough police officers. Is that an assumption?
That's,
Yeah.
probably, that's fair for most cities.
Okay, yeah, I'm
I mean,
making an assumption.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is
And then you
accurate
see
at this
things
point.
like, what was the lady's name in Alabama that shot the guy was standing outside his car, hands on the back of his head.
Yeah.
She shoots him in the back because she was in fear of her life.
Yeah. She shot him, killed him, and then when she was found not guilty, she got hired by the police department that was like 10 miles away or something
Yeah.
silly. Yeah.
Like
So
there's clear video of somebody taking overhead video of the
it was a helicopter
Copter, yeah.
camera. Yeah.
taking video of it. The guy literally has his hands on the back of his head like this. He's standing. He has his back to her.
Yeah.
She's apparently feels threatened. She shoots him in his back. He's dead.
Yeah, she shot him multiple times and then
yeah.
said she thought she had her taser. Like,
Yeah, right.
What?
Yeah.
Yes, like you
Yeah.
don't know the
And see,
difference.
this is what I'm saying. Like that was her first excuse was, oh, I was in fear of my life. I thought he was reaching for something.
Right.
And then she said, oh, I thought I had my taser.
Right.
And this is what I'm saying. Like the more they give these speeches up front, the more you see the story change.
And there wasn't
And
even a
then-
reason to tase the man at
Right.
that point because he's
walking away.
yeah,
he's walking
he's
away
not,
from
he's
her.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever think that there's a situation where someone gets shot in the back where the person who shot was actually in danger?
Yes.
Can you give me that example?
I can make up scenarios all day, but
I'm
okay,
just trying to figure it out.
just
'cause,
think of it like this. Let's say I have a gun and I know there's a gun behind Dallas,
Mhm.
and me and him get into it, an altercation, and I see him running in that direction.
Yeah.
My life's in danger because if he gets to that gun, now what?
Right.
You see, I mean that's just obviously a hypothetical
Right.
situation, right?
See, and in
That's
my
something
mind,
I
I'm
made
just
up.
like, well,
But,
how do we solve this problem? You know,
I mean, the thing is we have to be aware and use a little bit of common sense. And this is this is the thing.
Problem is
I'm not-
common sense is not common.
I'm not saying that the police are ever going to be perfect. I'm not saying that the police that we need to train the police so that every shooting is justified. If we live in a perfect world, then yes, I would want that, but we don't. There will always be mistakes. However, when mistakes or bad decisions end in the loss of someone's life, there has to be justice.
For sure.
There can't just be, oh, we have to cover this up, we have to whitewash this, and no. If you accidentally kill somebody or you kill somebody who didn't deserve to be killed, at minimum, you cannot be a police officer anywhere for anybody at any time ever. Sorry, pick a new career. Be a veterinarian. Be a doctor. You can't be a cop anymore. You're killing people.
Right.
Number one. Number two, when we find out that this dude shot this dude 8 times in the back while he was running away unarmed, that's murder. He needs to be charged with that.
Right.
That's how we fix the system. We have to charge people with what they should be charged with.
For sure.
And then we have to
Regardless of their
understand when,
title.
then we have to understand when, you know what? Dude had a gun. He was reaching for it. Cop shot him. Justified shooting.
Right.
I mean, and I'm not asking for just every cop's head on the stake. I'm just asking for justice when it's warranted.
Absolutely.
And stop covering it
And
up.
that's the problem
all.
is that like if people felt like they were getting justice in situations like where she shoots this guy in the back, the kid in South Carolina was running from police. There was no weapon anywhere. He was just running away, and the cop shoots him 6 times in his back.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously this kid is those instances when you see a cop essentially get away with murdering somebody, and you see this a lot, then you're like, we have to fix this, right? But when if those cops were charged and they were, even if your charge is you can never be a police officer again, you can't ever
Hold a gun again.
own a gun
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
The same thing that you would give me for murdering you,
Right.
like kind of thing. Even if there's no jail time involved, there has to be some type of punishment, not a well.
Right. That
Yeah.
makes total sense.
Then
Yeah.
people would, at least if there was some type of punishment, people would at least feel like at
There-
least they did something.
Right.
And I feel like that's where that power hungry, I'm above the rest of everything
Right.
boils from. That's where it comes from. So, to get justice on an even playing field would then, lower those power hungry people and also make the people that are being protected feel more like they're being heard and things are moving in the correct direction.
All right. So like I promised, if we do bad cops, we got to do good cops. I thought this was in Texas, but I'm reading through the article here and it doesn't say it.
Wait, can I say something real quick? I just want to make it clean and clear that I know that there are good cops and bad cops, but the sunshine inside me refuses to highlight the people who are doing their job incorrectly without promoting the ones who are doing it. I think that there's a lot of bad media
And
about cops, which
that's what we're
I
about
think
to talk
is
about.
warranted
Yeah.
and deserved. However, I also think that we should pay equal amount of attention to
And
this part
I
of the
agree
show.
with that. I 100% agree that if you ever see me on my Facebook page, if I post a bad cop story, I will post a good cop story because I don't believe that all cops are bad. My brother was not a bad cop. In fact, my brother is probably the best cop you ever want to be pulled over by, right? Like he's the type of cop that as long as he was a black cop in South Dakota, one of like 3. So like he got a lot of guff for being black. But if you were just respectful for him, he doesn't like paperwork any more than any other cop. Like he doesn't want to write tickets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has no tolerance for people driving under the influence because his kids were killed by a drunk driver. But other than that, like he'd be like, slow down, act like you got some common sense, and go on about his day. But if you give him, he likes to tell a story about a rich older white lady who was driving a BMW, and he pulls her over for speeding, and like the first thing out of her mouth is something racial and derogatory when he walks to the window. And he was just going to tell her to slow down, but now he's looking for stuff, right? Like, she's getting a ticket. Right. She's in a hurry. We're going to sit here for an hour because I don't have anything else to do, right? I'm going to run plates. I'm going to watch.
I'm like, tears. I'm sorry.
Right. He's going to watch YouTube videos. Like, he's like, wherever she's trying to go, she's not getting to, right? Like, and he's not, yes, he's being petty about it, but at the same time, she'd have just been like, yes, I was speeding, or
I'm so sorry.
You don't even have to say you're sorry. Just don't be disrespectful and bring race into it. You know, like, and she would have been fine. But no, like now he's looking for things to write her tickets for, and like so. But so this young lady by the name of Shanice, she's on her way to a job interview, and she all of a sudden the lights come up behind her. She's like, I wasn't speeding. I didn't miss a turn. Like, I'm using my turn signals. What could this be about? Police officer comes up. She grabs all the papers. She's actually filming this because she's a black woman and she has no idea what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I panic when I see police officers coming near me or at me or pulling me over. Like, I feel that. So
she says, the cop comes over. She's like, he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? She's like, no. He's like, both your taillights are out. And she's like, I just got this fixed. Like, how is this happening again? It sounds like a Trina statement. But
I was going to say, I have this exact same story.
Yeah. She's like, how is this happening again?
How's this happening to me?
And the cop was like, Firestone wants to charge her $600 to run a wiring test on her car. She's like, I don't have $600. I'm on my way to a job interview. So the cop actually attempts to help her. He has her open the trunk. He goes and checks all the connections, make sure all the light bulbs are connected. She pops the hood. He checks all the relay switches. You know, like, he could have been that guy and just wrote a ticket.
Right.
But he wasn't he wasn't out. He was out. He's doing his job, being a public safety officer, right? You need your tail lights because it's a safety thing for you and everybody else. Now, let's figure out, see if we can fix the problem. I didn't say whether or not they got the problem fixed, but she appreciated his willingness to just help her.
Right.
When it was something that she just wasn't aware was broken, and he was cool about it, and he tried to, save the situation. Sure. And so, Officer Jenkins, we give you props for being a good person, whoop, whoop. A good human being.
Yeah, I mean, like, we should just be better human beings, you know?
I mean,
let me tell you, shout out to the homies who helped me fix my car on the side of the road. I'd be freaking screwed without you. I mean, I've had a police officer do the same thing where he's like, are you okay? Is everything, you're pulled over? I'm like, I don't know. I got 2 taillights out, 2 flat tires, and I got no idea what I'm going to do. And they don't write me tickets, and they try to, steer me in the correct direction. One of them taught me how to get insurance on my car. That was great. I'm just saying. See, I have some good experience with cops. So,
Quan, don't shave for that, okay?
Quan, you got to fix my car.
I'm growing this out more.
Get out of here.
Right. I think there's a thing. I think
cops let you go a lot, though, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I know why. 2 reasons.
I was looking great one night. He pulled me over.
The show was delayed today because we had to make sure her boobs look level on camera.
True.
So
how'd I do, guys? Is that right? I feel like
they're better now.
Shifted in the right direction. No, one time, unregistered, uninsured, warrant out for my arrest, speeding. But I was going to the club. So I had fishnets on. I was looking fresh. This guy pulled up. He was just like, you know what? Just drive straight home and then Uber out because, another officer might not be as nice as me. You look great. Go have fun. Thank you.
White privilege.
Hello.
White woman privilege.
I was going to say, I feel like this is more of a woman thing than
I think we all want to share good cop stories, but I think most of the time, we just don't have them. You know what I mean? Even when a cop is just doing his job and there's no other interaction, when you get a speeding ticket, there's nothing happy about it. Even you did something wrong, you got caught, he was doing his job, he wasn't a douche about it, he was actually nice and whatever, and it's just for me, I just look at those interactions hey, I didn't get shot today, so everything's all good. But every once in a while, I got caught doing 70 in the 35 or something, and he was like, look, man, just slow it down. I'm gonna give you a ticket, but it's only for going 40 in the 35. And I'm like, woo. Oh, thank you.
Is this where I get into my handcuff story and how I felt after a while about police officers? I had a real white girl wake up moment. Would you call that?
No, it's exactly what it was.
I feel like that's what happened. So I got arrested in Connecticut. A security officer said I punched him in the face. I was intoxicated.
But did you punch him in the face?
I did not.
Okay.
So he just like made this up. However, I was intoxicated, so my testimony wasn't really that great. So I got put in handcuffs. I had to go through like 8 months of a stupid trial, getting a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. We're clear. We good. So, because I didn't do it. However, I was twisted upside down. I was being put in handcuffs and I didn't know why. And I thought that they
Welcome
had
to
gotten
being
the
black
wrong
in
girl.
America.
So yeah, I mean, this gave me a lot of understanding. Granted, I will never be able to understand to a full capacity of that. And that's just being a different person from a different place. And that's kind of where empathy and understanding is difficult for a lot of this society. However, I definitely got a real check that I was, for the first time in my life as a white woman, I was uncomfortable with police presence. My whole life I was raised to, don't be afraid of police officers, firemen, you see them, they will help you. And I'm not gonna lie, I cringe now. I get nervous. Like, what, they could just say anything or do anything and I could be fucked for life. And that gave me a moment where I like said the things to Collins at lunch and I was like, yo, like I didn't do anything and my whole life is being wrecked. And he was like, yeah, welcome to being black. Just a very interesting perspective.
And it cost you, how much did it cost you?
$1,890
plus a job. You got fired from a job.
So yeah, I like was applying. I had a job. They ran my background check and it came up as open, and they thought that like we don't want to hire you for that. So I ended up losing one of my jobs to that point. It took me 8 or 9 months. I almost didn't get another job. And it was a little bit of that power. The security guard was like wearing a Purple Heart and saying he threw himself in front of his fellow security officers to save them from me. It was this long process that I really felt, I don't want to say victimized because that's a rough word.
But you were victimized, though. You are victimized, right? You became a victim of somebody else's ego and maliciousness.
Yeah, for sure. And it was definitely a power trip moment. So it's definitely put a huge stamp
Think
in
about this,
my
right?
life experience.
In the 1800s, early 1900s, there were black men who were hung and murdered because a white woman made a comment about him that wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole movie called Rosewood. You should watch it one day. It's about... I know. But the movie Rosewood is about a white woman who's having an affair with somebody else. When her husband finds out that she's been having sex with somebody else, she lies and says that a black person raped her. They literally burn a whole town to the ground and kill damn near everybody in the town.
Yeah.
It was a little small community of black people. They literally, the white people burned it to the ground and killed kids and women looking for this one guy who never did anything wrong to begin with.
Right.
Think about this.
All you had to do was pay $1,800, lose a job, go to court, and waste 9 months of your life.
You know what? And my Trina self feels that way truly. I feel like it was an experience that I needed, and I'm thankful to have it. And I don't want to. I got off with the minimum, for lack of a better word.
And think about how soft this security guard is. That he has to make up a story that this small girl punched him in the face.
Right. Oh my God.
I mean, because that's so life threatening.
Right.
Right. The power from the fist of Trina.
That's what it felt like. It felt like power that I had no control of, and I was just sitting in this situation where, and in that moment, me being Trina, I'm like, oh my God, my life is ruined. I'm never gonna get, blah blah blah. But in reality, they do have that power, and that's scary when you're put in a position where you give your power to someone that you can't trust. Which is generally
that's the thing, though, right?
Our topic.
You used a key word there. You said when you give your power to someone you trust, right? The problem is that you don't give that power away. It's taken from you. That's a very different thing, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a loving relationship, like with your spouse or something, you give them a part of your power, right? Because you trust them and you respect that they're going to do the right thing with it, right? But when that power is taken away from you and you no longer have control over that, that's a very different, scary situation.
Absolutely.
And police are very good at taking that power away when they don't have the right to take that power away.
And if they just used it in the correct form, it would feel like giving your power to someone you trust. Because like I said, being raised in a home where police officers were good, firemen were good. I never once questioned that a police officer would arrest me when I didn't do something that I didn't do, So to be in that situation where I felt like I had given them my trust to protect me all the time, then to have that flipped on the opposite side and realize it wasn't something I gave, it was something you take. is very, very different situation.
Let's stay in your home state of Connecticut,
Oh
right?
man.
Were you trying to avoid this subject today?
No, I just Connecticut.
All
Love you guys.
So there are 3 young ladies and their families in Connecticut who are suing the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference. And the reason they're suing is because the girls' names are Selena Soul, Elena Smith, and Chelsea Mitchell of Glastonbury High School, Danbury High School, and Canton High School.
I played a lot of them in volleyball.
They are suing because they don't want transgender athletes participating in their sports. We had a conversation with a friend of ours.
We had a conversation
yesterday, actually, about this, and
we see very differently
than our friend, or we see differently than you. I think we're kind of on the same track.
We feel similar. I understand where she's coming from too. It was a very interesting conversation to have because it's the society view on sports is so difficult to overcome when you're trying to look at the fact that someone's identifying their gender, which really is a social problem, not a game problem. But in this instance, I think it's important to say, like, sports are important to society, and this is something that's real, so we need to find a solution and a way to handle situations like this.
I am of the opinion. And so,
I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Oh, all right.
I can't wait.
I'm of the opinion.
I want him to start us off, but I am dying to know how you feel.
So, I always feel like whenever we talk about subjects like this, like I'm going to sound like that old white guy down south who's just homophobic, racist, and everything. And it's not that. Like I just feel like I am all for transgender people playing sports, but I think you should compete in sports against each other. Like I don't think that. And so we talked about this yesterday, and this is my thought process on it. Right? There's a top of a sports, and then there's the bottom. Right?
Yeah.
The best men in the world are always going to be better than women.
Mm-hmm.
In physical sports. I'm not talking about mental things, because women can be as smart as men. Like, we're not disagreeing,
sure.
But we are just physically different, right?
Correct.
And there's always going to be a female that's an exception, but she's not going to compete at the top. She can probably compete maybe at the bottom to the middle to the bottom of the men's categories.
Yeah.
But she's not going to compete at the top.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking physical sports.
I know, but there are going to be women who are just the best in all around. There has to be a woman that I'm not saying it happens every day, but I'm saying it happens.
Here's the basis of it, and this is what people have to get to. So you take away feelings, you take away what somebody believes, you take the politics out of it, and you break men and women down into this, which is men by nature, by the way we are born, by the way the universe created us, by the way God made us, whatever you want to say, men create this thing called testosterone. Testosterone is basically the primary ingredient to muscle, to your reflexes, to your speed, agility, endurance. The more testosterone you make, the more of, or the better and faster and stronger that you can be. Men simply make more of that than women. Women make it, but not as much, and not at the same rate.
Just like men make estrogen, but not
and men make estrogen, but not as much as, because if men made more estrogen, we would literally start growing breasts. Like that's how much we don't make.
Take testosterone? Why are they
here's the thing, right? So the reason why performance enhancing drugs are banned is because if I am naturally competing with another natural man, taking those drugs, which most of them have an effect on your testosterone, or they are synthetic testosterone, which just makes you stronger, that's cheating, because I'm now enhancing my physical body to be better than my counterpart who's just going off his natural. Because all of us, although we might be a little different, each man to man, we basically make testosterone when we're about the same age at about the same rate. It drops off in men at about the same age at about the same rate. Some drop faster. Some just seem to never drop. Like, some people are just strong forever,
do men
right?
who have testosterone deficiencies, are they not able to compete in sports?
They can compete in sports.
It's just harder.
However, it's
they can. It's just
but here's
harder.
the thing. Here's the thing. Number one, it's way harder. Number two, if you have a true deficiency, There are things in sports where you can go to your doctor and they can give you enough testosterone to boost you to a normal level.
So if
right?
a female wants to take the normal amount of testosterone that is normal in all other men,
Okay.
and they choose to be a transgender male at that point,
Okay.
then why can they not compete if you
Okay,
are all
so here's
given
the-
the same
So
amount
here's
of
the problem.
testosterone?
Because you're not seeing that, and that's not what's happening. There are no transgender women coming to men's sports and dominating those sports.
That's the top
So
to the
that-
bottom,
and see,
bottom
this
to the
is-
top.
This is the issue that we're having. That's not happening. What's happening is there are men who already are naturally physically more gifted, more stronger, bigger, faster. They're going to women's sports because they say, well, I'm not a man anymore, I'm a woman.
Mhm.
And then they go to a sport and now they're competing against people who they are naturally light years ahead of physically, especially when you look at teenagers.
Mhm.
Because teenagers, they have spurts. They go at different ages. Some start when they're 14. Some start when they're 17. When you have someone who probably started early and they're a natural man, and then they say, you know what? I'm a woman today, so now I'm going to start competing with women.
Doesn't exactly
Now
look like
you're
that.
competing whatever they decide, but
I'm just gonna wake up one day, yo, I'm a man.
however it works to the sports world, that's how it is. The problem is it's no longer about that transgender person. It becomes about the other people who physically cannot compete with that person without a physical enhancement that they have to go to a store or a doctor.
And you're
I
talking
believe
about
transgender people take estrogen though, as like on the opposite way. Like they're getting the
Some of them might, but having
the drugs
but
that, you know,
estrogen doesn't
decrease
always
those
stop
things.
your
but
testosterone. So-
here's the other thing. Sometimes, as a man, taking estrogen can raise your testosterone levels because your body counteracts that. And
Exactly.
And you're talking about women who want to take steroids to be bigger, faster, stronger, like than other women. But even like if you go through like the history of the Olympics and weightlifting,
Yeah.
these are sports that were steroid use is rampant amongst women and men. Even the very best and very strongest women in those sports who have taken steroids for years and years and years and have built this entire muscle mass still cannot compete with men of their same age
Right.
and weight groups.
and that's
And
the
it's
other
not
thing.
even close. Like
Yeah.
we're talking about like power lifters, women who have been taking steroids for years, being at the top of their game and in the same weight class and same age group as men, and the men are still 100 pounds stronger than them.
I don't understand why the thought of combining genders is so difficult. Like, I don't understand. Okay, why can't soccer leagues, why can't football leagues, why can't basketball leagues be 6 men, 6 women? Like, you're going to pull your 6 strongest men out of this country, your 6 strongest women, and put them all together.
Nobody wants to see that.
That's bullshit. So if that's the reason
That's not
society
bullshit.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that's bullshit. That if that is the scenario that we are in as a society where sports and entertainment is higher valued than someone's sexuality and acceptance in a society, then we have a problem
But
to
you're
look
talking
at.
about-
You're not taking all of sports
Combi-
away, you're adding girls. You're saying by adding girls that it is no longer entertaining.
That's
Put
not
that
what
in
I
a
said.
box.
That's not what I said.
But that is what you are saying.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that nobody wants to see men and women compete against each other.
Right, you're saying that now will ruin the sport by having them compete together.
Because here it sounds like a joke because even Dave Chappelle said it. Imagine if LeBron James decided tomorrow, hey, I'm a woman, I'm transgender, I'm going to the WNBA. He would be unstoppable.
His
and it
body
would not
wouldn't
be
look like
fit.
that at that point, though.
Why
Why
You
not?
go
Why
through-
wouldn't
as
it?
a transgender, you go through different types
But
to make your
first of
body
all,
look and feel
you're ta-
like the person that you are on the inside.
But he's still a head taller than the women in the league. He still can bench press 200 pounds more than the strongest woman in that league. He
know if
still can
that's the
probably
scenario
run
once you-
faster than those. I mean, this is
You're
the
making
thing.
this
You're-
assumption that taking testosterone and female hormones makes you weaker when it doesn't.
I did
Yeah.
not say that.
and it's
But
not.
no,
Here's
but
the
that-
thing. Like,
you may not have said that directly, but that's your assumption. You're saying that by becoming
I'm saying that their body changes by taking different drugs to transform to go
yes,
through your
okay. Look at it. Look at it this
transformation.
way. Their bodies will change. You are 100% correct. But in the example of using LeBron James, his body will never become weak enough that he's not stronger 10 times stronger than the women he's competing against. And it's not like these drugs are just a magic pill where you take one and
That's
then 2
science.
weeks later
You
you're
don't
super
have to
strong.
agree with that. That's science.
This is the science of it. This is not how I feel about it. This is what it is.
This is real.
This is why we're having this issue.
But we have phenomenons. We have different people who shouldn't be held
What
back
is a
against performing
what is a
in those
phenomenon?
leagues.
A 1 in a million type of situation.
Maybe, and that person
There
has
are-
the right to play in their 1 in a million shot. That's what the Olympics
they'll
are for.
get
That's
it.
what the high end spots. Will they? Because a woman who is now in that
we have
situation
a
will
woman
not
who's
be able to.
what's the soccer player's name that's gonna try out for kicking? I can't think of her name off the top of my head.
I forgot.
Yeah, that there's a woman on the U.S. soccer team who's who's attempting to play football. Like she wants to be a kicker.
Right, but that's acceptable.
But here,
And
it
a
would be.
transgender
But this
playing in
is
the
the
opposite
thing.
league isn't.
But you're talking about a woman playing with men, not a man playing with women, and you're assuming because they're transgender that they're going to take hormones to make them more female. Because it doesn't say that. It says that they identify.
Right, you don't have to be transitioned. I
Right,
understand.
and that's
Yeah.
the problem, right? Like
I think
because
that's a different situation in itself. I mean,
But-
I think
but the
even-
problem is
but
when you
even
open
if-
Pandora's
still,
box, you
right.
allow for that to happen.
Right.
Like,
but Pandora's box is open. The situation is here, and you can't just say, you guys need to go play with yourselves over there.
but
you
here's the
can't
thing.
play with us.
But here's the thing: physically, let's look at football. Physically, it is not safe for men to play football with each other. Right?
Which is another social topic that needs to be talked
naturally just alpha strong guys blasting each other, and you want to put a woman in that mix?
I mean, if that woman wants to choose that, that's her choice. I think if she wants
That's
to compete,
irresponsible.
she should be
But it's
able to.
irresponsible.
as
it's not
the
safe.
NFL, as
Yeah.
men, it's irresponsible to let somebody in there
That might be
because now
true.
you're taking that woman's life in allowing that woman's life to be at risk.
Which is why I personally think that sports need to be changed in general, views by society, because they're very.
Great show today, guys.
Toned
Thank you
in.
guys for
We have
checking
run
us
out of
out.
time.
I'm Dallas Scott, Basic Trina, Hollywood Huff, Quan the producer, Negro Please. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram at The Negro Please. And don't forget to check us out next Thursday, 12 o'clock, depending on whether or not we get Trina's breast in the right frame.
Depends. Could be 12:10. You know. You think it takes time to look this good?